Hi, I'm Jeannie Reed. I am the marketing manager here at the Gluten Intolerance Group, and I'm really happy to be hosting your event tonight. Just to introduce you to the team behind the scenes tonight, I'd like to introduce you to John, our education manager, Aliza, our communication specialist, and Alex, our marketing assistant. For those of you who are not aware, GIG is a nonprofit that's on a mission to make life easier for everyone living gluten-free. In fact, we've been doing just that since 1974. We make life easier by providing education with events such as this one and lots of great resources on our website at gluten.org. We do that through support. We have 80 support groups, over 80 support groups throughout the country. Join one today to find gluten-free friends in your own neighborhood. We also do it through our food safety programs, such as our GFCO certification program. Our certification marks on over 60,000 products, and our GFFS food service validation with food service locations from hospitals to your local bakery. Additionally, we have a sister nonprofit called GIG Cares, which launched within the last year to cultivate positive connections in the gluten-free community and is doing just that. Looks like almost everyone's in from the waiting room. I'm going to just let Alex take over the show so that we can introduce you to our guests.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Yeah, so Jordan Clark is joining us from glutenfreenecessity.com and has written articles covering topics from budgeting to eating out while living gluten-free. He enjoys being involved in the gluten-free community and is a volunteer support group leader with the GIG in the San Francisco Bay Area. So our second guest is Rochi de Sagun, and she is the person behind the Frugalista Mom lifestyle blog. And it aims to help people living gluten-free, living with food allergies, thrive on a budget. She is also the host of the podcast talk show, Getting Candid with Rochi. And then our third panelist is Jennifer Bigler, and her family deals with multiple food allergies. She is the author of 2 cookbooks, Living Freely Gluten-Free and 101 Incredible Gluten-Free Recipes. She blogs easy recipes, traveling tips, product reviews, and more. She is also a board member for the Gluten Intolerance Group of North America.
Thank you, Alex. Welcome. I'm so glad to have each of you here to talk a little bit about navigating the challenges of living gluten-free on a budget. Jordan, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself, say a few words?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jordan. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, specifically in a city called Alameda. As mentioned, I am a support group leader with the Gluten Intolerance Group, and I think that's a great opportunity to be involved in the gluten-free community. And if you are looking for extra support, I definitely recommend looking up gluten-free support groups near where you are. It's been a great experience to be not only lead one, but to be involved in one. I was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2016 during my last semester of college, which was actually a terrible time to be diagnosed. But I'm alive and here I am today. So happy to be here.
To tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Bigler from Living Freely Gluten-Free. I have been gluten-free for almost 11 years. Actually, it'll be 11 years next month, and I have a gluten allergy. So I'm very allergic to it. And I have a family of multiple allergies. So my son has a corn allergy and my daughter is also lactose intolerant. So for us, it's managing all of those allergies and staying on budget. And my recipes are gluten-free and dairy-free. Now they're corn-free too, but we are constantly trying to save money while being on having multiple food allergies. So I'm really excited to share all of our tips and tricks with everyone.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And Rochi, will you jump in and talk to us a little bit about tell us about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rochi de Sagun, also known as the Frugalista Mom. I started my blog about 10 years ago. Actually, this September, I'm actually 10 years on the blog. And I started a blog because of my children's multiple food allergies. I am a mom of 4. And at that time, they were 1, 3, 5, and 7. And they were diagnosed with multiple food allergies, including wheat, dairy, egg, soy, tree nuts, peanuts, shellfish, and sesame. And at that time, it was really a tough time for us, because aside from having kids who already ate like a gluten-free cupcake, because actually 2 of my kids are really gluten-free because they're under observation for celiac. It's just that they can't be properly diagnosed because they have to eat wheat, but they're highly allergic to it. They're anaphylactic. So they've been living gluten-free for over 10 years now. And I say it is a struggle because now they're teenagers. They're actually 13, 15, 17, and 19. So can you imagine how much your grocery bill is supposed to be? So I would like to share everything I've learned since the time we managed their food allergies until now, the changes, and also how I kept them well fed all these years.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So before we had this event, we actually gave each of our 3 panelists $100 and asked them how far they could stretch it. And each will be sharing how they shopped and cooking adventures and kind of doing all things on a tight budget and what kinds of meals they came up with for their particular household. We'll be talking about what we've learned about shopping and cooking with less stress and more joy while pinching pennies. So let me ask, I'll ask each of you, how many meals were you able to make with that $100? Jordan, would you like to go first?
Yeah. So I was able, so I made lunches and dinners for a total of 7 days. So I made 14 meals over 7 days. And I was cooking for just myself in that case. So 14 meals for one person.
That's a lot of meals. Jennifer, how about yourself?
So I was able to do 7 dinners for the 4 of us, but my son eats like 2 grown men because he's a teenager. And luckily we did have some leftovers too that we were able to eat for lunch the next day. So 7 full dinner meals with leftovers.
Wow, that's amazing. And Rochi.
Okay, so we are a family of 6. And I have to say, I just mentioned 4 teenagers. So what happens in our house is that we were able to have dinner. We were able to make, I would say, from the $100, it's 5 dinners, and of the 5 dinners, 4 became lunches the next day, because that's our rule in the house anyway. What's for dinner is your school lunch, because they bring food for lunch to school because of their multiple food allergies. So we had that one covered for 5 days.
Wow, amazing. That's awesome. And what kinds of meals did each of you make? I'd love to hear about the types of food that you have.
You want me to start? I can start.
Yeah, please do. Jump in.
Okay, so here's the thing. Usually, one of my strategies that I learned over the years is that I don't shop for everything in 1 week, or I don't have really a weekly shopping where everything is there. So in my strategy is actually build your pantry, stock on your fridge. So what happened is I was on a vacation for a month. So I was away for a month and with my 2 sons. So when I got back, which is in time for this challenge, our fridge is empty because it's only my 2 girls and my husband, and everything was like, they cleaned up the fridge, and any frozen meals I've had, they cleaned it. So with the meals, I actually bought mostly meats because, meats are very expensive, but it is really what we have. So we have what we call spare ribs adobo, which is like a Filipino dish. It's usually chicken or other types of pork, but when I went shopping, it is the ribs that are on sale because probably, you know, leftovers from the barbecue. So I got a big rack of spare ribs. And then I also have the family pack for ground meat, which I use for the ones in the picture, which is cabbage and spicy cabbage with beef. And that's really for one big meal. I mean, not just meal, for like probably 2 days worth, because it's a family pack of ground meat. And also family pack of chicken drumsticks. We made chicken tinola, which is it's actually saute. It's a ginger and chicken soup, which we ate. And and at that time, it's also the chicken drumsticks that are on sale instead of a whole chicken. So we got around 12 pieces of drumstick in that family pack. And aside, you know, we usually eat rice with every meal. So that one is not included in the $100 because it's already from my last shopping. We actually stack up on like 25 pounds of rice because that's our, I would say every 2 weeks is 25 pounds of rice. So that's covered already. So aside from that, because I went shopping, okay, we're not mentioning it. Okay, I'm mentioning it because it's the store most people go to. We actually went shopping at Aldi's, which had cheaper, I would say they get cheaper meats, they have cheaper vegetables. And aside from that, maybe in the pictures too, I got some, I would say, essentials from Aldi's, which is the gluten-free pasta, the gluten-free wraps. I had some chips that they had too. So the $100 was really stretched, except for the rice and a few veggies.
Wow, that sounds amazing. That sounds awesome. And shopping, you know, at stores like an Aldi's can absolutely help because they do have a lot of gluten-free products and other things at a good price. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about what kind of meals you made for your families. What types of food did you make?
So I went for crowd pleasers that were inexpensive. So things I know that are going to be easy. I can make them like in less than a half hour. And I did pizza because making homemade pizza is actually very inexpensive, and you can kind of just throw whatever you have in the fridge on top, and then the kids can make their own too. And then I did a lot of vegan dishes because meat is expensive. So I'm always looking for vegan dishes that are really filling but delicious. So I did a garlic pasta, a feta pasta, and then I also did a vegan chili, and that's one of my kids' favorites. In addition to that, I did fajitas because you can use whatever meat's on sale to make them, or you can even go vegan by using like portobello mushrooms. And then I did a buttered chicken, which can be really inexpensive because I like to use chicken thighs, and that tends to be cheaper, and I serve it over rice with the vegetable. And then hamburger soup is, that's probably that was a little more expensive, but my family really enjoys that, and it's a great leftover. And I think that was all of them. I went to Trader Joe's and got almost everything. On the West Coast, that's probably my favorite store for saving money on everyday items. But then I had to go to Sprouts and grab a couple of things that Trader Joe's doesn't carry because we have so many food allergies. I have to buy like really particular brands and items. But I only ended up spending about $85 of my $100 budget.
Wow, under budget. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is making sure that you have a meal plan ahead of time and your grocery list is well prepared and you don't buy extras.
Sometimes that's the hardest part. The half-hour meals definitely jumped out to me. So quick and easy, family friendly. And
yeah, the only one that takes extra prep, I would say, is the pizza because it has to rise a little bit, but it's pretty fast to throw together.
Sounds wonderful. Jordan, tell us a little bit about your experience. What'd you make?
Yeah. So for context, I purposely shopped at a store that's actually more expensive. It's called Safeway. And there was a couple reasons that I did that. We don't have, in this part of the Bay Area, a lot of people don't live close to stores like Walmart or Ollie's. And Safeway is kind of a one-stop shop that you can get everything. It's somewhat equivalent to Sprouts or Whole Foods. Number two, I'm a busy person. I work full time and I'm pursuing a master's degree part-time. So I didn't have a lot of time to like run around between different stores to grab everything I needed. So I wanted to just take advantage of like go to one store, do all of my shopping, and get out and get home and prepare meals. I knew that though doing that, I'd be sacrificing being able to find cheaper food elsewhere. But for the purpose of this experiment of $100, I wanted to just try to get everything from one store, even if that store was on the more expensive end. So I made I made 5 different meals. I made spaghetti, chicken salad, baked potatoes, taco salad, and chicken and rice. And my meals don't sound as exciting as the other meals that were prepared, but it worked for me, and it helped me. Those are kind of like easy go-to meals that come to my mind. And because I'm busy, it was just easy to stick with what I was familiar with. And yeah, turned out okay. My chicken and rice meal was not actually that good in the end, but the other meals were okay. So
I think they sound wonderful, especially when you're busy and on the go. Those seem like hearty, filling, comforting meals. Awesome. So I have to ask, what stood out as the hardest part? What was harder than you thought of trying to do that? And thinking of the challenges and how we can overcome some of these challenges. What you want to continue, Jordan?
Sure. Yeah, I could talk about that. I would say that normally, when I have time to go shopping, I won't buy all of my groceries at the most expensive store I can find because I do like to save money. So I will usually go to more of a bargain store. We have either Grocery Outlet or Food Max. Those are the bargain stores closest to us. And so that splitting your time between stores, like it takes more planning. And even though I didn't do it for this specific exercise, that is something that I normally try to do is find or go to the store that has the best prices before going to more expensive stores to get the rest of what I need. In this case, a challenge that I found was that when I was meal planning, I was using the prices I found on Safeway's website to figure out how much each item cost, so that I could get up to that $100 without going over. But then I ended up going shopping the next day, and prices for some items were just completely different. So I ended up spending much more on apples than I planned on. And I guess I knew chicken was going to be expensive, but it just still surprised me that it was so expensive in the store. And I didn't want to deviate from my original shopping list, even though prices were different. I could have, but I just wanted to stick to what I had planned. And so I had to do some give and take of apples are more expensive. So what can I cut off? Maybe buy a couple less tomatoes or something to make up for the difference. So the difference in prices between when I actually did the planning and when I got to the store and actually bought the products was probably the biggest challenge.
Oh, I hope some retailers are listening. We'll have to send a recording out to some of our favorite stores and remind them they do that for us. It is really hard when you're meal planning. I think sometimes they change their prices between a Saturday and a Sunday, or some change it between a Sunday or a Monday, and that can be really challenging.
Yeah, and I'm sure I could have done more work to see when sales were ending, and because retailers are generally pretty good about sending out information about that, but I didn't. I looked on one day, and then the next day I went shopping and prices were different. So
frustrating.
Yeah.
What kinds of challenges did you have, Jennifer? Did you find any challenges along the way? Was anything harder than you thought?
So I think for me, the biggest challenge is just how the store is often out of what I'm looking for. So I come for a specific item and they don't have what I need, and then I have to improvise. So, maybe instead of buying chicken thighs, you have to buy a chicken breast, or I was going to get steak, but I got chicken instead, for the fajitas and things like that. So just, going with expectations and then having to improvise in store, which when you already have a list with a budget can bring up some challenges.
Always being ready to pivot, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Supply chain challenges, certainly. I mean, I think we all know that. You go in for your regulars, you never exactly know what you're going to get when you go to the stores these days. Really good one. Rochi, tell us what your challenges were. What was harder than you thought?
Actually, the harder is really the price of the meat. Because usually when I go shopping, it's usually because I have I would say a well-stocked pantry, and I keep going. I always shop like for vegetables, like for the cabbage. Actually, I didn't buy it in Aldi's because 2 days before. I think I went shopping. We went to a winery here in New Jersey, and along the way, there's some local farms there that is just like that cabbage is one huge cabbage is only $1 from a local, those little farms there. So I said at that time I saw some corn and then the cabbage. So for just $5, we were able to, support a local farm and just got some fresh produce. So anyway, the hardest part for me is actually the meat because it's ridiculously high right now. I mean, before I used to buy like chicken, the chicken legs or chicken thighs for 99 cents a pound. And now it's just $1.99 in Aldi's, which is on sale, which is normally the price of the chicken breast,
Mhm.
So that was the challenge because, we are a big family and whatever we have like for dinner, it's usually the lunch for school. So we have big containers for lunches. I have my boys are 13 and 15. I'm sure they're going to eat more eventually. So it's really a tough one, but that is the meat. So what I told Lola before when we were talking, she's like, how did you feed your family of 6? You're all like grown people. And with that one, and I said, most of the time we use meats as a side dish instead of the other way around where vegetables is a side dish. And then we always have carbs. I know some people are like, don't eat that much carbs, but for teenagers, carbs is essential. And we have some cheap carbs like rice, potatoes, and corn, which is, for them, it is, I would say, very filling, and they don't have to use that much meat. So that was the biggest challenge because before I was able to just shop for like $100 for a whole, maybe 1 to 2 weeks of worth of food, but now the cart is almost empty. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It is a challenge. It is really a challenge with meat prices these days. And I love the idea of actually considering it more of a side dish, so you're letting the vegetables, the farmer's market be the star. Great. Really great. So is there any main lesson that you learned or maybe one main tip that you have that you through your experiences? Why don't you continue, Rochi? We'll keep talking. We're going to go back in circle.
Yeah. Okay. So about the tip, because I know meal planning is essential, but for me, I always have, instead of the weekly, I have like a month of what my kids wanted to eat, and those are like, I would say, dream dishes or what they wanted. And then when I shop, I only look for the ones on sale. That's the tip. Because, if the rice is on sale, I'll buy the rice this time. And then, because if I don't buy it on sale, it's really ridiculously high. And, it gets very expensive. Like sometimes you would see me having, because we have to use dairy-free and soy-free butter substitute as well as gluten-free, right? So if that item, which is normally like around $5 a pack, a container, if it goes on sale for like $3.99, I'll buy 2 right away because I know it's an essential. And another tip that I could say is I always have like a $10 or a $20 splurge money. So what does that mean? If I see anything on sale, I have that $10 that I just use for the sale. For example, I saw pastas are on sale right now. So I'll use that extra $10, I would say, splurge money and get those pasta and stack them up because I know eventually in 1 to 2 weeks they will eat pasta. So that's what I always have. If it's like, it depends on your budget. Some can have like a $25 splurge money. For me, it's always 20. And then if I didn't use the 20, what I do is that next week I have another 20. So if I have like a $5 change, I make that 25. So that splurge money is always a certain amount every week. So it helps in the stack up of the pantry.
That is a really great suggestion. Oh, I love that. Really good tip. And yeah, taking advantage of that, especially if you're managing multiple allergies. If there's something that's really expensive, you can get on sale.
Get it.
Get it. Get it while you can.
Yeah,
Get a
freeze
little
that
extra.
bread. I always say freeze that gluten-free bread.
Great. Jennifer, why don't you tell us, was there a main lesson that you learned, or do you just have like a great tip from your experience?
Yeah, so one of my big tips is like buying in bulk with discount stores if possible. So Costco is a big one. I only have Costco on the West Coast, so I'll go there and I'll look for like crackers and bread and things like that always. And then I think Jordan kind of talked about going to your discount store first. I do that too. I'm on the West Coast. We have Grocery Outlet. I can sometimes find like Mikey's Pizza Pockets for $1.99. At Sprouts, they're like $7 or $8. So when I see items like that, I fill up the freezer and I check the expiration date because sometimes it's a small expiration, and I'll stock up that way. I also like to cook in bulk and bake in bulk. So if I'm making something that can easily be doubled and I can freeze it, then I'm going to do that. And I'll make like cupcakes ahead of time and cookie dough, because if there's a birthday party or something, you can just pull that right out of the freezer, and makes it so much easier. And then also buying in bulk online as well. Like I buy my flour in 20-pound bags online, and I have a discount coupon code that I use to get, a big discount off of it. And that saves a lot of money as well.
Oh, great tips, great suggestions. Making that extra, buying in bulk, making the extra and putting it for next to, that can be a lifesaver, I imagine.
Especially because you'll save money not eating out as well, if you know that you have something fast that you can just grab from the freezer and reheat.
Oh, that's perfect. Great, great tip. Jordan, tell us, what was there a main lesson that you learned or some tip that you'd like to share from the experience?
I'm going to kind of copy Jennifer's of buying, of trying to buy from discounted stores first. Like do as much shopping as you can at the least expensive stores possible, and that includes buying in bulk. I'd also say knowing what items you need to avoid in certain stores that are just going to be more expensive. For example, at Safeway, where I went shopping, chicken breasts were basically $4 a breast. Like that's effectively how much they came out to. So yeah, noted, never buy chicken from Safeway because it's so expensive. And you can find chicken at discount stores, right? So there's no reason to buy it there. But I would, that learning can take some time of going to different stores and see what they have and see how prices compare, but really understanding where you can get the best prices for specific products is key. I would say just like a bonus tip, something I do is try to avoid buying a lot of like packaged processed gluten-free foods. There's been an awesome side chat going on about gluten-free bread, and I of course buy gluten-free bread. Sometimes I just buy it a lot less than I used to because it's expensive. And I did buy gluten-free pasta for the sake of this, and I think gluten-free pasta is pretty cheap compared to other like processed gluten-free foods. But buying a lot of processed gluten-free foods will add up very quickly, unless you can find a super good deal on them like Jennifer did at Grocery Outlet. So
really great tips, really great suggestion on that. I think the more you can make from scratch, the better you can be for your budget. But it's nice to be able to have some of these discount locations or just ways to be able to pick up some special items. That's fantastic. So, what other ideas do we have? What kind of tips and tricks can we provide to our audience tonight to help navigate the food challenges, the money challenges when shopping gluten-free? A thought that comes to mind are coupons, whether it's regular coupons, digital coupons, go into manufacturers' websites. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Have you had any experience there?
Yeah, actually, I've used coupons a lot ever since, we started doing. Actually, I used coupons before we were gluten-free. I love that concept, but I do actually have a tip before is to have one email address just for the companies for gluten-free subscriptions, so it doesn't flood all your other, work email or something. Because I have one email address that has all the brands that I love, so I know when I log into that email, I got all the coupons in there in one spot.
Great idea. Oh yeah, because I always find my inbox gets a little bit overwhelming, and then I feel like I miss some things like that. Fun idea. Great. How about you, Jennifer?
Yeah, I love the coupon idea. Sometimes it can be hard to find gluten-free coupons, but if it's items that you can purchase online, you can always Google for a discount code, or your favorite influencers often have discount codes, so you should always check there first. And then also, I do my best to stick to naturally gluten-free dinners, because, when you start buying all those extras that you have that are processed, that's when things start to add up. And just really trying to stick to that meal plan. And I always plan that in advance before I go to the grocery store too. There was a side question about like organic, how to buy that cheap. I bought all my organic produce at Trader Joe's, and I stick to the dirty dozen concept. So if I like to buy all organic, but that's not always practical. So sticking to the dirty dozen, making sure those are my organic items, and then I'll stretch out into non-organic if it's cheaper for the others.
Such a great idea. Oh, that's a really great way to plan. Love it. Jordan, what about you?
We do, some people in the chat are talking about apps like Ibotta. We do use apps like that. And honestly, my wife is the one that's better at using coupons than I am. So we try to share the load of shopping and grocery shopping and stuff, but she is much better about finding coupons and stuff. So unfortunately, she's not here to talk about that.
Ibotta's pretty cool. I've done that before. It's nice to kind of get your money back after you spent it, right? That's kind of how that apps like that work. You kind of plan ahead and share your receipt. I think that there are more and more ways to use those digital coupons. I don't know, has anyone used, sometimes I use digital coupons where you kind of can shop the circular ahead of time and it automatically loads it to your card. So when you go shopping, it takes those discounts off. Sometimes there's extra perks there.
Actually, I've used that. We have it for ShopRite and Acme here in New Jersey area. So we always do that one. And actually another tip is that if you go like shopping to like regular stores, go to the clearance section, because those are some of the items that are not, what they put are not like popular items. And most of the time they are the gluten-free and allergy-friendly items. So go there on that clearance section, because you can get a lot of like pasta, sometimes the gluten-free soups, if those are non-moving products, they put it in there. So there are like almost red tagged already. So you can find, I would say, I told you the $20 splurge money usually goes in the clearance section, because they have it there. And another thing is like, one more tip that I could give is during the season, like right now we're gonna have, I'm not Jewish, but we're gonna have the Jewish holiday soon. And after that, maybe a few days after the holiday, try shopping at the clearance section because of the Jewish products. They have gluten-free matzo sometimes. They got gluten-free, items, even crackers that are on sale after the Jewish holiday.
A lot of certified gluten-free products there too.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Definitely. Good suggestion. What other kinds of tips do you guys have? One thing that I heard you came up a few times in your descriptions was being creative. Being creative with your meals, being creative with the way you stretch it. Sometimes there's things like you can be creative with your herbs and your spices and your seasonings, and maybe growing your own herbs, or finding, so you're just kind of increasing your flavor and using some of those staples like rice more, or things like that. What kind of creative ideas do you guys have for kind of stretching things?
Actually, for us, we have our I would say once a week, because we eat a lot of rice, so it's steamed rice. And then anything that was, because you have to cook it every day, the rice. So if we have leftovers, I freeze them. Rice can be frozen, the steamed rice. And then at the end of the week, we have what we call the kitchen, I would say the fridge cleanup. So we're making fried rice with those frozen rice, maybe just defrost it like the night before. And then anything clean up, like leftover vegetables in there. If you have broccoli, if you have any type of ground meat or even sausage, any leftovers in there, put it in that and make fried rice. That's it. And that's a good one pot meal.
That's great.
Yeah, so we do the clean out fridge night too, and I usually will incorporate a couple of those meals in each week. Soup is a great one, like a vegetable soup. Whatever you have on hand is going to work. Pizza is another great one. And then I like to also buy a lot of local in-season produce and freeze it. So I'll buy like flats of strawberries every week all summer, and I'll freeze the strawberries, and it's so much cheaper. It's local, it's better. And then we have a small garden in the backyard that we grow as much as we can every year with too.
Such a great idea. That ties into that supporting the local farmers market, right? So you get that fresh in-season vegetables and fruits and try to stretch them and make them last. Really good point.
I can jump in on this too. So something that we try to do, and I don't know if this was already said, is plan meals that use like similar ingredients. So and that's something I focus on a lot with my 5 meals. So like I use chicken and chicken salad and chicken and rice, and I used ground beef for spaghetti and baked potatoes. And so if you're going to buy an ingredient, see like plan meals that use that ingredient in different ways so that you get some variety, but so that you're not having to buy different ingredients for every meal that you make. And you mentioned like being creative with your meals. The baked potato meal that I had, which baked potatoes don't necessarily have a reputation for being the most amazing food, but I just did some simple like seasoning on the ground beef and the baked potato, and it actually, like, my baked potato was actually the favorite meal that I had. Just like the seasonings that we used turned a really simple meal into one that actually tasted really good. And I would make it again, and it was probably one of the cheaper meals too. So
Wow. Yeah, you know what, it really is. Sometimes you can take a staple, a simple staple. I happen to love potatoes, but you can take a simple staple and really make it exciting. That's what it seems like you did with your potato too. And I think the idea of, really planning some of those ingredients you can use again, definitely budget saver, probably a time saver too.
One thing I could add in with the whole potato talk, it reminded me, right now it's kind of hard to find like buns and things at the store. Plus they're, $9 a pack. Using a baked potato as, whatever instead of the bread is a great way to save money and also be a little bit healthier if you can't find the items that you're looking for at the store. Like I'll put sloppy joes on top of a baked potato, or, wrapping things in lettuce instead of using a bun as well.
That's fantastic. Potatoes are so filling too. So, that can really be a great thing to have. Over on gluten.org, if you search potatoes, we've got a lot of potato articles. Check out. I have to add in here, while our Lola can't be here tonight, beans are her very favorite thing to add. Beans are nutritious, one of the best things for you, very filling, and also, super inexpensive. So you can have a lot of variety with beans.
Oh yes, actually, we have. I use beans and it's extender for ground meat. Usually, I just if they need some anything with ground meat, I'll just mash a little beans with the ground meat. It will be a good extender, and also bean brownies. Yep, they're great.
I've never had bean brownies. Tell us
You
about that.
don't? Oh, you should use bean brownies. They use, just instead, it's naturally gluten-free. So I use that one. I have a recipe on my blog, and I know there's some use eggs. I use flax seeds instead of eggs as binder. So you just puree it, put coconut, a little coconut oil, or avocado oil, a little oil for the brownie, eggs, or what I use, the flax instead, and then cocoa powder, sugar. Some use like honey on it, puree everything, and then you bake it. And you get brownies.
Good for you too. That sounds amazing.
Yep. Actually, those are one of the treats my kids got in trouble when they were small. Because they said no sweets in school, and I said, you're eating, I'm not telling your teacher, I'm not telling you, but I'm telling your teacher it's actually beans you're eating, not brownies.
That is fantastic. Great suggestion.
And with beans too, you can, if you don't want to buy canned beans because it can add up, you can make your own beans, and I freeze them. So I cook them in the Instant Pot, and then I freeze them, and I'll use that to throw into my recipes or make refried beans with, and you will save a ton of money doing that.
Oh, really great suggestion. How do you cook them in the Instant Pot? Do you have a recipe?
I do have a few on the blog, but you just, you cook them on the bean setting, and it's so easy. Fill it up with water and you have perfect beans.
While I'm thinking about it, make sure that each of you put your drop your blogs in the chat so people can follow you and check out. You have really great content on your websites. Another point that Lola really wanted to emphasize too was, and I've heard this throughout tonight, but just integrating lots of fruits and vegetables into your meals, and plants so that they don't get wasted. There's so much food waste in the world. And, if your bananas are going bad, pop them in the freezer and use them for something, use them for a smoothie or for a recipe later. Make sure we're not wasting food, because there's so many great things to do with that. That's awesome. Does anyone have anything else to add before we open it up for questions?
Actually, one more thing is, because when we had the food allergies, because before that, our family is certified foodie, I have to say. So don't be scared to look for other recipes, like Ethiopian recipes or Asian recipes, because some of them are actually naturally gluten-free, like some recipes. So when it comes to creativity, if just go online, like I think there's so much, like Southeast Asian dishes mostly are rice based, or they use rice noodles that are very cheap when you go to Asian stores. They can be you can get ideas from that one, because most of their dishes can be naturally gluten-free.
I've heard that a lot. I've heard that Asian stores, you can actually really get some really great discounts and just great prices there, and bulk sizes.
Yeah, and actually some of them, like the rice flour is very expensive. I mean, most of them I know some are scared that they're not certified, but in most Asian countries, like what I learned, what brand that my great grandmother used is the same brand that they have it until now. It's just that their facility, I mean, most of those I would say brands has been there for generations. Like if they only have rice, it's only rice that they have in their facility, because like, for example, it's in Thailand, they don't have much wheat products. So the milling is only rice. So, you can check that. They have potato starch noodles that they could, which are also gluten-free as well. And like mung bean noodles, like bean-based noodles, which are, because, in Southeast Asia, they don't have much wheat. So it's mostly rice, it's just the wheat. So they have a lot of alternatives in there. And also some African countries, they do that one as well. So just be adventurous. Google some, like, I would say ethnic dishes, and you can see that most of them are gluten-free.
Great suggestion. Great tip. Awesome. I'm going to ask Eliza to just kind of join us in this conversation and let us know, do we have any questions out there that we should be answering right now?
Well, I do have to say we have an amazing community and everyone is answering everyone's questions in comments. But there's a couple of things that I thought we could ask of our panelists, just so everyone can benefit from that. One is picky eaters. Any of you have picky eaters, toddlers? I think most of you have teens at this point who can also be picky. But any suggestions for affordable, easy meals for those very picky eaters?
So when my kids were toddlers, I would try to just make sure that I was making their favorite foods that were safe from scratch. So like we make chicken nuggets and things like that. But I think a big part of it is continuing to introduce the food to them so that they eventually grow out of that. Like my 12-year-old and my 8-year-old are super adventurous with food now and they want to try new things. But in the beginning, just making sure that you make those toddler staples or let them get involved as well. I'd let them pick their vegetable. I would let them help me cook it, and then they would want to eat it because they participated.
I just like to add on Jennifer, because when we have to change our family's diet, my kids were 1, 3, 5, and 7. And at that time, when we have to be gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, most of them were able to, they were able to eat regular cupcakes before, regular bread before. And it was tough transitioning because at that time, most of the gluten-free items are not as good compared recently. So they would tell me before it's cardboard, even that one. So what we did is, on that time, instead of saying no, this is what I always tell parents, instead of saying, no, you can't eat that, I always say, let's find an alternative. And then, it was, there's Master Chef, there was the cooking shows in there. Oh, it's just like in that challenge, we're going to make something. I think it was the Chop show, that what's inside the box. And then we have to create something. So I told the kids, you know what, we're going to create something. We're going to create like with the bean brownies before. I told them, let's make brownies out of beans. And, they were like, okay, let's do this. And I said, you're the panel of judges. You have to try it. So at that time, they were like, okay, they feel empowered as judges, but, they have no choice but to taste it. And eventually, if they could critique the food and everything, and then we could, make it, it's a family thing for them. Make it, I would say, empower them. Don't say that, no, you can't have this one, you can't have it. I always tell them, well, let's look for an alternative, or let's make one that's gluten-free. So, and then you'll be the judge. You'll be, if you like it, then good, the recipe stays. If not, let's make another recipe or create another one. But the thing is, if you tell them that they have the power to, they have the control over the food, it will be helpful for them.
That's great. Great suggestion.
So there's a question about easy, not just mindful of the budget, but what would be your go-to absolutely easiest meal to make? Again, being mindful of the money piece, but particularly for folks, who are extremely busy or who have low energy, and it can be really tough sometimes to get the motivation. So what is the absolute easiest meal?
So one of the recipes that I made is a garlic pasta, and it takes less than 20 minutes start to finish. What takes the longest part is actually just boiling the pasta, and it's packed with flavor. And you can throw like some vegan Parmesan on top if you're in the mood for that. You can make chicken or shrimp to go with it if you want, but it's literally fast, flavorful. And if you forget to thaw meat, that's like my go-to recipe.
For me, actually, I have like what I call the taco meat, which is basically ground meat. I always have them at home, or I make them in big batches. And then we always have what we call the mock chipotle bowl. So basically, I have the salsa in the fridge. We have guac in the fridge. you know, we always have lettuce in the fridge. So with that ground meat, they just heat it up. And then, you know, if we have rice, put it in there and then put whatever we have in the, I would say in the fridge, clean up the fridge, because, you know, those are, if you have a nice stock fridge, like salsa, sour cream, you know, guac, they could always make that mock chipotle bowl. And it's actually very easy. We always have the ground meat. I would like, you know, just cook the ground meat and put it in like half of it in the freezer or in the fridge, and they have it anytime.
Good idea. You know, that sounds, you know, quick and easy, but also good for the picky eaters or people who don't want all the same, you know, everybody wants something a little bit different.
Yeah, clean up the fridge.
Yeah. Have what you want. Here's your choices. Good idea.
I would say my two like super quick meals, and I ate them as part of this: spaghetti and baked potatoes. And if you want a baked potato really fast and you don't actually want to bake it, you can just microwave it. It's not as good. I actually did that as part of this because I was going to bake a potato, but then the Bay Area was going through a heat wave and it was like 90 degrees in our apartment. And I was like, I am not turning on the oven to bake a potato. So I just microwaved it and it still came out really great. For simple meals that are maybe just a little more complex, a lot of curries are pretty easy to make. We have this great chicken coconut curry recipe that's really easy to throw together, and it's always a crowd pleaser. So
Really
how about indulgence? So when we talk about budget, we talk about cutting back and just saving. But if you were to do a little bit of a splurge or something that's like a splurge, but still budget friendly, what would be each of your favorite go-to splurge? Gluten-free splurge, of course.
For us, it's homemade sushi. So it's a little bit time consuming, but it's so appreciated once we make it and we eat it. And it's one of our favorites. And then I would say as a family, it would be like seafood in general, because seafood is expensive, but my whole family loves it. So if I can find it on sale, I make it and cook it, and everyone is so excited about it. It's like a special treat.
Okay, for us, the splurge is actually steak. You know, because we're a big family and they want big steaks and they're teenagers. So normally I would get, I know some people would say, you know, the different types of steak cuts can be very expensive. Sometimes I just get the chuck ones from Costco, the big chuck ones. And then I actually, because it's about like an inch thick, so I would cut it like lengthwise, so it's going to be half an inch thick, and I prepare that as regular steak. And for medium, you know, for me, if we cook it like usually we cook it for medium, put herbs on it, they wouldn't know the difference of it's like I would say a nicely prepared steak is better than you can buy an expensive cut and then you don't know how to make your steak. So that could be pricey, but that one we do that a lot. And also, when you serve the steak, I don't give them the big chunk. I actually slice them already. So it looks, and flatten it, you know, make it like in a nice platter. So they think they're eating a lot, but it's because it's pre-sliced, instead of giving them the big chunks that sometimes they don't finish. So it gives the illusion with the service that it's a lot of steak, but it's only like one big chuck, you know, one big piece of chuck meat.
For me, for this, actually for the $100 budget challenge, my splurge was cheese. I ended up Safeway had a $10 bag of cheese, and that sounds like a lot of money to spend on cheese, but it was so worth it. I put cheese on most of the meals, and it was just a great addition. Other than that, I feel like what we probably splurge on the most isn't necessarily a meal item, but like gluten-free snack bars. I tend to eat a lot during the day, or I snack frequently. So finding good gluten-free snack bars that are certified gluten-free, of course, that's kind of what I would splurge on.
No one said cookies.
Also desserts, yes.
And maybe some desserts.
Yeah.
No, that all sounds amazing. Absolutely. I think we've actually come to the end of our hour. I can't believe that was the fastest hour I can recall. Just, I think a few key takeaways from our discussion. There were a lot of good takeaways from our discussion. Just a few to maybe touch on was to enjoy gluten-free versions of traditional gluten-free foods. But focus on naturally gluten-free foods when you can. Focus on those fruits and those vegetables and the potatoes and the beans, and the rice and the things that, really are important. And also to, we should make sure we are enjoying our meals and not feeling deprived. But using the pricier packaged food more moderately and focusing more on those naturally gluten-free foods. Planning ahead is the number 2 key takeaway, clearly, from everybody else, for everybody's discussion. First looking for the deals, doing some meal planning, being careful when you shop, checking those prices if you planned ahead to make sure that the price on the shelf matches what you thought it would be. And then having to make some adjustments when you're in store, particularly if you can't find the products you want. But when you start off with planning, it makes it a little bit easier. And that whole idea of using that same main ingredient a few times during the week for budget and for convenience is a great one to plan for. And then to minimize some food waste and save some dollars. Making extra when you can, having enough to have your dinner be your lunch the next day, or maybe freeze it for future use. If you come across a good deal on something, go ahead and cook that extra or freeze it and use it for lunches. This kind of planning makes it less likely you'll be spending more money on last minute meal prep or purchasing prepared meals at the store. Making and freezing your own pre-prep meals is definitely more economical. And then, make your meals enjoyable and budget friendly by being creative. And then, you have to also add and find those coupons, check out those apps, try different grocery stores, try somewhere you haven't been before, go to the discount rack at the back, upload those coupons to your card if you can. Sometimes it takes a little bit of extra work, but we can do this. I'd love to see all 3 of you were able to take that $100 and really stretch that for yourself, given your own lifestyles and your different situations and kids and work and trying to do it all and finding a way to do it. So really impressed. Thank you guys all for being here. Do you have any last words?
Thank you, everyone. You can always message me if anyone ever has any more questions. I'm here to help. But it was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
About the cheese, where do you guys get your cheese and what brand do you get the cheese? Because I go everywhere and no cheese says gluten-free on it.
Certified.
And none of them are certified or anything.
So you're looking for certified gluten-free cheese.
Yeah.
Well, most cheeses truly should be gluten-free. If you look on the label and make sure that, there are no gluten-containing ingredients, most cheeses should be gluten-free. But where do you guys get your cheese? What's your favorite cheeses?
So I don't get cheese because, wait, what? Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
We'll ask our panelists, where do you get your cheeses? What's your favorite?
I usually get mine from Costco.
Costco.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
I get the cheese from Trader Joe's. They got a wide assortment.
I found Tillamook is a pretty safe brand for my son who can have dairy. And then for dairy-free cheese, Veal Life and Follow Your Heart and Miyoko's is my favorites.
What was the Tillamook one? Wait, how do you write that?
I'll put it in the chat for you.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Any last minute takeaways as we head out? Well, thank you all for being here tonight. I super appreciate it. Thank you so much to our panelists who gave us all great information. And if you do have any questions, you can always reach us at the Gluten Intolerance Group. Check out gluten.org. All of our contact information is there. We're always happy to help. We will be putting out a blog post that addresses all of the questions that are left in the chat and just kind of recap all the information here. Anyone who was here tonight will get a copy of the recording within about a week so that you can use it as a reference. Feel free to share it with your friends and your family. And if we can help along the way, we're always here. And, you know, our great panelists, I know, are always so supportive of everyone in the community. So thank you all. Thank you all so much. Good night, everyone.